The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 113.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library. Today we have Pete Wilkinson, author of Unstoppable, Using the Power of Focus to Take Action and Achieve Your Goals. And Pete has agreed to actually personally sign the book for today's winner. And if you want more information on that, you have the ability to go to the elpodcast.com, become a VIP, and you have access to win all the different books that we talk about each day. And again, Pete has been gracious enough to actually give us a signed copy. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Welcome, Pete, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Thank you very much, Wade. Good to be here.
Will you take just a moment to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about you personally before we dive into your book?
Yeah, okay then. So my name is Pete Wilkinson and my website's petewilkinson.com. And I'm primarily in the space of focus and consistency, sort of taking action. So everything I do, whether it's with clients, whether it's speaking or workshops, whether it's online courses, everything I do is around the focus and consistency, and it's using my skills. So from kind of being in business school and then also doing long distance triathlon like Ironman and long distance cycle events. So it's all around the space of how to be focused and consistent to get the results that you should really be getting. So that's what I'm about.
Excellent. So thank you for sharing that first off. And now let's jump right into your book, Unstoppable, which was actually just made available not too long ago, but at end of the November 2014. And Pete, we're going to move quickly, but we're here to cover the top questions that our listener/reader wants to get answered. And that first one is, what was the inspiration behind writing Unstoppable?
Okay, well, the inspiration behind it was that I was sharing the system that the book identifies with clients, but really only making a small impact in the number of people I was reaching. So, even if you're sort of working with lots of people in a one-to-one basis or even certain senior teams, there's still a number of people. And I was getting a little frustrated that people were making some really good gains with the system that's in the book, and it wasn't really being shared enough. So the idea behind writing the book was to give them a system that could be shared to a large number of people to have an impact with someone that I've never even met before. And that was really the reasons why. But it was tough to write it. And I focused on that outcome of just being able to help a lot more people, basically.
So what makes your book different from others regarding the same or similar topic?
Yeah, well, the different thing for me, and I read a lot of books, and there's some great stuff out there. What Unstoppable is a 4-part sort of system. So there's a process to becoming unstoppable. So it isn't just about giving you a couple of hints and tips. The whole foundation of the book is my 1-3-5 action plan. And what I do share is the plan that I currently use. I share pictures. I share the vision I've wrote, the templates. So what's different is that reading the book and going through it, it isn't just reading it. There's space in there to answer some of the questions about how to create your vision, about how to create your action plan. And it's more of not just an interesting novel type information. It's actually can kind of coach you through creating, instead of just giving you some things to think about. Where it's the main reason the book is different is because I am sharing a system that I have proven time and time again with other entrepreneurs on how to be unstoppable and make the most of yourself. And I think that's the main area where the book is different, that there is a tried and tested system, not just from a textbook, but something I use and continue to use every day, as I've just used it today with a group of chief execs. So it's the system that is the real difference with my book.
So Pete, how would you suggest the reader engage with your book? Is this the kind of book they can jump in and out as they need information, kind of cherry picking, or is it really designed to be read from front to back?
It's really designed to be read from front to back. I have created it into 4 different parts, part 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you could jump into those if you wanted to separately. So the part 1 is just framing the whole thing, giving you a really good idea as to why I believe it's important to have what I call an unstoppable attitude. Part 2 is the sort of the foundation, which is the bit where you actually are going to create your action plan. Part 3 is where we start looking at skills, and there's 4 main what I call execution skills. And then part 4, the last bit, is really looking at the 12 months ahead. So if you only had a short bit of time, you could just do the foundation if you wanted to. But I did design it and write the book for you to move from the start to the finish, and each section does build on the previous. So that would be better if you could do that. So what is it, 200 pages? So it's not a huge read. It's something you could quite move through quite quickly.
Okay, excellent. So now that we know the background behind the book, let's take a deep dive into the content. Really what I want to do is hand over the mic for the next 5 to 8 minutes and really allow you to just take us through what the book is all about. Will you do that for us?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay then. So like I said, we've got, how I built the book around was 4 particular parts. And part 1 I've called the beginning. And the reason for this is just to go into a background as to why I believe it's important to develop an unstoppable attitude. I'm very, very passionate about how important attitude is. And I think coming from an ultra-distance triathlon background and, doing Ironman with a cutoff of 17 hours and all this sort of stuff, you need to have a very process-driven attitude that allows you to achieve what you are capable of achieving. So part 1 is really kind of emphasizing as to where you are now is not where you need to be. You don't need to stay where you are now if you want to improve. And some people, I think, don't realize that. So the first really is going into that in a lot of detail and framing what I call the 1-3-5 action plan, which is the foundation of the unstoppable attitude system. The 1-3-5 is kind of briefly discussed in there to get you to get an understanding of where we're at. Part 2 is where we really get into the detail, and that's where we start the foundation. And we have various chapters in here and things emphasizing at the beginning how it's all about your habits and how successful people have successful habits, and trying to get you to think about the last thing you want to do is flick your cruise control switch. So that's just really getting you to start thinking about how being effective is all about your habits. And that's where you will first see on sort of page 21, you'll really start to see a completed action plan for the first time. So you know what you're going to be creating as you move through it. And then as we progress from the habits, we then get into the actual individual components of the action plan, which starts with a crystal clear vision. And we go through, and I've got a very, very simple system. I share my vision, and I actually share a handwritten drawing of what my business plan looked like. So it's a vision for me, and it's literally handwritten, and we've scanned it in the book, so you'll see that. And we talk about the different steps of creating a picture, about looking at some photographs, describe what your perfect day looks like, imagine what life will be like when you achieve it. So there's a multi-stage process to go through. And the idea being that you really start, instead of just saying, I know vision is important and you should have one, where I'm trying to be different is to show you and share with the reader a very systematic process of creating a vision by asking certain questions that, when answered, will allow you to get a crystal clear vision, understanding that what you do in the next 86,400 seconds will affect tomorrow. So the first part is really your vision. We then go into core objectives, and this is where we chunk down the vision into what I call 3 core objectives. This is the 3 part of the 1-3-5. And the 3 part is where too many people are chasing bright blue butterflies. They're sort of in a certain direction for a while, then they get either a bit bored, or it gets difficult, or they've got to shift their comfort zone, and then they drift. The idea behind 3 core objectives is to really say, if you're going to achieve this vision, and this vision needs to be a description of the very best version of you, then you need to focus on 3 core objectives. So realizing that it's not going to be an overnight thing, but by breaking it down, you are directing your attention exactly where you should be. And that's what the 3 core objectives is about. And we talk about them being core, specific, and then also written like they're being achieved. And then the final part of the foundation is the goal part. We all know we need goals, but what I'm suggesting in this system is to have 5 stepping stone goals for each objective. So what you have is a very simple vision at the top. You then have 3 core objectives sitting beneath that. And then feeding from each core objective, you have 5 goals. And that's the 1-3-5. That's the foundation. But there's some very good activities in there to help you do that, so that you will actually create your own version of your action plan, and then you're kind of creating a 1, 3, 5. So you're starting with vision, you're then moving to core objectives, then you're moving to goals. When you use it, you turn the whole thing upside down, and you know that logically, all I've got to do is work on these goals that will feed into this core objective that will then deliver the vision. And that's the foundation. We then look at key skills, and I believe there's 4 key skills we need as entrepreneurs. We need to be better at leadership, and I think we should start with self-leadership. We then need to look at personal organization, how we use our 86,400 seconds. We then need to really focus on relationships, and finally, strength development. They're the execution skills to make use of the plan. I did an MBA a while ago, and it was all strategy and planning. Execution is really important. And that's what that sort of next part is. And then finally, we look at part 4, which is the next 12 months. So we do a review of various things, your product, your people, your team, your time. So what we're doing there is optimizing you to have the best next 12 months. And that's where we go through a very simple process, and we look at different levels of value. We look at how you're going to be looking at making sure that your products are right. Have you reviewed your products? Are they going to deliver your goals based from your action plan? Look at your team. Are your people right? Look at how you spend your time. Is that right? What's your key message? So it's really from start to finish, kind of beginning with the idea of why to have this unstoppable attitude, then showing you how to have an action plan to create the plan that fits on a single page, which is very important. It fits on a single page, so it's very easy to use. Then we look at the execution skills, so you're optimizing your skill base. And then finally, looking at the next 12 months ahead, so you're doing as much as possible to ensure a successful next 12 months. If you put all that together, you then have a system to become unstoppable. And that's the whole purpose of the book.
So Pete, first off, you did a phenomenal job of giving us a review of the book. And second, I want to ask, you did a great job of reviewing, and now we're asking you to even take it down a step further, to put your book, I guess, in a nutshell. And that's, if the reader can only take away one concept, principle, or action item out of your entire book, everything you just discussed with us, what would you want that to be?
Well, this is linked to sort of something that I keep saying all the time. And this is one of my favorite quotes from the book. The favorite quote is, if I was the very best version of me, what could I achieve? That's a question that we as entrepreneurs should ask. Now, for me, the big takeaway, the concept is we must have a crystal clear vision of what success and happiness looks like for us for some time in the future. And for most people, that could be 3 years. So the concept I would take away is that if you can at least have a crystal clear vision, and for this needs to be a succinct statement, written in the present tense as if it's already been achieved, maybe 5 or 6 sentences that clearly, succinctly describes what success means to you. And if you can have that, have it front of mind. I read mine every single Monday morning, and I make sure every action I take is somewhere going to feed into that. So if the whole thing, if I could take away that one thing, is to have a personal vision. So it's not a business vision, Wade. It's the person first, and then business or service or support after. But it's the person first, answering the question, if I was the very best version of me, what could I achieve? When you answer that question, you then need to create your vision, and then you need to do everything to make that happen.
Perfect. And that's very powerful. And this next question leads right into that as well. Do you have a favorite quote from your book?
Well, the book set out with various key questions and takeaways, and there's quite a few. I think on page 88, there's a little block, like a pull-out quote, and it says, the key question many of us need to ask ourselves more often is, if I was the very best version of myself, what could I achieve? I then say, when you answer this, you must do something about it. That's a key question on page 88, and I think that really sums up what the book's about. It isn't about becoming a very good version of you or a fairly good version of you. This book is about becoming unstoppable to become the very best version of you. So I would say that would be the quote for me.
Perfect. And Pete, it wouldn't be a good podcast on books if we didn't ask you for recommendations. What we're looking for here, and it doesn't have to be on business. We're looking for a book that created a paradigm shift for you or really impacted your life. Can you share one with us?
Yeah, I mean, I could share 10. I would say probably Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I read that every year in January.
I actually do the same thing. I think it's just one of those books, and you get something out of it different every time.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do. And I do read that every week, every month, every year, sorry. And I have the CD version as well, the audio book that goes in the car. And I just think it's so simple. And the fact it was, 1937? And I think the principles are still relevant today. So that really has to be up to date. I'm currently working through You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. And I am getting a lot from that as well. But yeah, I mean, I read all the time, so I could give you 10 recommendations.
Excellent. Well, Pete, before we depart, can you recommend the best way for our listeners to not only get more information on you, but also your book, Unstoppable?
Yeah, well, I mean, the website, I've created a website, PeteWilkinson.com, to give people a lot of information. There's some video blogs on there, some written blogs on there. You can download a free pocket action book to get you going. If someone really wants to read a sample chapter, I have one. I'm happy to email them it. They can email me, which is pete@petewilkinson.com. And if anybody, can, like I say, pre-order the book, we're waiting for more stocks to go in. But if they read the book and they want to go even deeper, I do have a multi-video, workbook, detailed online course, which goes through the whole process as well, which is a small investment, but that really drills it down even further. So the first stage would be to go on the website, download the free action book, and then if people want to get a sample chapter, then send me an email, pete@petewilkinson.com, and I'll be happy to send them a sample chapter.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing with us.
Thank you very much, Wade.
Thank you so much for listening in today. If you'd like more information on Pete, or you'd like more information on his book, Unstoppable, just look at the show notes at the elpodcast.com. Thanks again.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.